welcome back to my read-along of A Tale of Stars and Shadow. We are up to chapter 22. I've been waiting for this one for a while, so I'm going to get straight into it. Alrighty. The Shadowhawk strolled through the evening streets, hands deep in his pockets, shoulders hunched forward. Even when moving through Dock City without the mask, his instinct was always to blend in, to stay unnoticed. The bridge across the rush from the poor quarter was busy, full of those who had managed to find work in the other quarters in the city. Heading home for the night, many of them haggard and dirty. The jobs available were usually only those others didn't want to do. Not to mention the Azurdia workers struggling home after surviving another day extracting the priceless sap from the forest trees. Apart from the conscripts serving sentences for whatever minor crime a corrupt patrolman had trumped up, the volunteers were generally all from the poor quarter, those that had no option other than resorting to crime to survive. And anyone who had business in the poor quarter during the day was getting out before night fell, and it became a dangerous place to be. The Shadowhawk often headed to his apartment from the poor quarter. It provided a route that was less noticeable and had the added benefit of giving anyone who got it into their heads to follow him the impression that the famous criminal lived in a nest of criminals. Out of habit, he took a circuitous route through the market quarter to ensure he wasn't followed, before finally pushing open the wooden door to the tall, narrow building housing his apartment in the dock quarter. The staircase creaked under his boots, but none of the other occupants were around to notice him as he reached his door and unlocked it. It gave the usual groan as he pushed it open, then took the usual complicated jiggling to get it to close properly. He took one step into the room before freezing, his heart thudding so hard in his chest he thought it might burst. Someone was standing on the other side of the room, leaning casually against the wall. It wasn't Narvis. Silence filled the space, thickened, turned so heavy it constricted his chest. His fingers curled, searching his pocket uselessly for his mask. It was too late for that. The person shifted and metal glinted through the faint moonlight coming in through a gap in the sheets over the windows. Not the nicest place for the lair of a famous criminal. For a moment he was struck utterly dumb. He knew that voice, recognized the face as soon as she stepped away from the wall. How had she found him? "You've been dealing with inept wingguard and even more incompetent city patrol," she laughed softly. "I'm Talyn. It took me a matter of weeks to find you." He summoned his voice, kept it a balance of indignant and firm. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Who are you, and why are you in my apartment?" She regarded him with a cool sapphire gaze. "If you'd like to play that game, I'll call the city patrol now and you can have this conversation with them." She stepped closer. "I know you're the Shadowhawk. Denying it will only waste both of our time." His eyes closed as he took a deep, slow breath, using that time to anchor himself and take a firm grip on who he was. Then his eyes snapped open and his gaze met hers unflinchingly. "If that's what you believe, why haven't you turned me over to the city patrol already?" He moved slowly towards a table by the wall. Underneath it, he kept hidden, "I already found the dagger," she said, "and the ones under your mattress. Nice pair of knives in the privy too, though I have to say, they're certainly the most pungent weapons I've ever encountered. Not to mention the stash of unique arrows in the floorboards." "You might be Talyn," he said, giving up on searching for weapons. Part of him was panicking, recognizing too late how badly he'd underestimated her, how badly he'd overestimated himself. He'd relaxed too quickly, dismissed her as a concern when there'd been no immediate consequences to her arrival. Still, the rest of him was slowly regaining control. He dealt with worse than this before and survived. "But there's a reason I've stayed alive and uncaptured so long. Some might call your coming here alone foolish." "Some would," she said, an odd bitterness to her voice. "But I don't care much about foolish these days." "Why are you here instead of the patrol?" His initial burst of fear was fading rapidly. If she'd intended having him arrested, she wouldn't have come alone, and he knew more than she thought he did. His confidence rapidly reasserted itself. "I have questions, I need answers, and the city patrol aren't going to get them for me." He barked a laugh. "I can't possibly imagine what you think I know that could help you." "There was a break-in at the Citadel 3 nights ago. 4 humans. Was it you?" The question was blunt, shot at him without preamble or hesitation. Genuine astonishment filled his voice, the words spilling out before he could consider them. "Why would I break into the Citadel?" She took a step closer, eyes raking his face. It wouldn't help her. He was a master at hiding his expression, hiding himself. Something flickered over her face. Realization of that, maybe? And she shifted away. "If you don't help me, I will go to the city patrol. Or perhaps if I present you gift wrapped to the Falcon, he'll start trusting me enough to tell me what I need to know." As long as you don't give me to the dock quarter patrol, they couldn't get information out of a chatty drunk, he said. A half smile flashed over her face. His own lips curled in response. I don't have anything to give you, Captain Dynan. You're not going to turn me over to the city patrol, and once you leave this place tonight, you'll never find me here again. Is that so? Her tone had been nothing but even since he arrived, leaking no trace of what she was thinking. It appeared well practiced, like she'd done this many times before. But at the same time, he caught a hint of discomfort about her. She kept glancing briefly to her side, as if expecting someone to be there. You mean you'll go to your real bolt hole? For a moment, utter panic filled him at the thought she might have followed him long enough to discover. But no, this conversation would be going differently if she had. So he said nothing, and she gave him another pointed look. You don't live here. This place is for appearances only. An extra layer of protection? Or something else going on? She wandered closer. Either way, I can find out if I put my mind to it. He needed to change the subject, slide away from her attack and regain control. You claim to know a lot about me, but I know more than you think too. He walked over to the wall, deliberately turning his back on her. Reaching up to slide a rotting plank away from its spot, he pulled out the knife inside and turned back to her. She didn't move. Her expression didn't change. How would the humans you're trying to train feel to find out that you're royalty? Might ruin the precious trust you're trying to build there, no? I have no idea what you're... Save it, Captain. He considered the knife in his hand. I hear things about you too, like the way you speak to Prince Kewin, the way you dress your wings so confidently. I hear that you walk around in all that splendor up at the Citadel without a hint of discomfort, almost as if you're used to such wealth and power. And now, seeing you in person, the casual arrogance of your stance, I was guessing at royalty. I thought at least nobility, but that reaction confirms my guess was right. Despite the faintest of flinches the first time he'd said royalty, she really was masterful at hiding her reactions. The silence between them deepened. She wasn't going to give him anything. For the moment he buried his astonishment at how right he'd been. For now he needed to focus on maintaining the upper hand in this conversation. His voice dropped to a murmur. What are the Condors up to, bringing a Doomnorix to Mithrana to protect their useless payboy prince? Her eyes flashed, and she glanced sideways again as if searching for someone standing there. He stared. They don't know? Why are you really here then? To spy? Who broke into the Citadel? The cool tone was back, her equilibrium restored as if it had never vanished. Their gazes locked, neither willing to back down. In the end, he gave her a faint smile. I had nothing to do with what happened the other night. That's for free, Captain. Now, you leave me alone from here on out, or the Falcon learns who you are. Clear? I won't be threatened by a criminal, and I certainly won't be leveraged by one, she shrugged, glancing around. Move away from this place, and I'll find you again if I need to. You're bluffing. A matching cool smile curled her mouth. You want me to believe you're going to walk up to the Citadel and tell them what you know, and expect Ravani to believe you? A beat passed before she continued. You need to stop forgetting I'm not City Patrol or Wingguard, Shadowhawk. I'll best you every time. There was a time I did nothing but hunt criminals like you. Then why not turn me over? I'm King's Shield now. All I care about is that you're not a threat to my charge. Steer clear of Prince Kewin, and you and I don't have a problem. Without waiting for him to respond, she turned and strode for the window, swinging herself up and through with an easy agility he'd never seen before. A cool breeze drifted through the gap she'd left in the sheet covering it. A long moment passed. Then, slowly, he turned and placed the dagger back in its hiding spot in the wall. She'd left his other weapons in a pile on the bed in the other room. When he reached down to pick one up, it took him a moment to realize his hand was shaking. She'd found him. Easily. Now she was a threat to him, a serious one. But he wasn't as afraid as his brain told him he should be. He wasn't sure what he felt. They'd sent a real warrior, and not just a warrior. She was smart, fearless, and knew how to hunt. A protector of the highest caliber. For the Wingguard. Why? Alright, that is the end of chapter 22. If you don't want any spoilers, now's your point to jump out, because we're going to have a good chat now in the author commentary. If you are leaving here, I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe on your way out, and I really look forward to seeing you in chapter 23. Otherwise, let's have a chat about this chapter. All right. Was that not a fun chapter? No. Our very first meeting between Talyn and the Shadowhawk, our two protagonists. This was a heap of fun to write. There are so many layers going on in this scene. I chose to write it from Kewin or the Shadowhawk's perspective, because I really wanted the reader to get a sense of what Talyn was like in her kind of Callanan comfort zone, where she's completely in control of a situation. She's highly experienced at what she's doing. She's found her quarry. She knows how to manage a criminal. And I wanted the reader to see that from Kewin and from the Shadowhawk's perspective. Writing it the other way around would have made the scene a little bit more opaque, because the reader still doesn't know that the Shadowhawk is Kewin, and neither does Talyn. So it would have been more of a Talyn monologue for this very kind of opaque man. Kewin and the Shadowhawk, as shocked and as taken aback and as panicked he still has his glamour magic and his song magic, so he was able to kind of keep that mask on. He's if nothing else, Kewin is incredibly skilled at maintaining that mask, that glamour, when he's under pressure, because he's been doing that for years. So even though he was completely taken aback and completely panicked by Talyn's sudden appearance, he kept that up. So writing the scene from Kewin's perspective, I felt was a bit more fun for the reader, but also for me to see how Talyn operates as the famous Callanan warrior that she is. She played it pretty beautifully. Kewin's song magic was obviously an advantage in this scene. Again, you don't know overtly in the writing that that's what's happening, but it's always in the back of my mind. And if you read between the lines of some of the comments that the Shadowhawk's thinking is doing during the scene, that he's very clearly trying to get a read on her, doesn't have much success because she's so in control in that moment. But does pick up the fact that Talyn is still looking for Sari in situations like this, where Talyn felt very much in control, but it was also a dangerous situation. She looks to looks to Sari always at her shoulder and doesn't find her there. And Kewin's song magic picks up that dissonance and picks up the fact that she's constantly looking for that. But otherwise, he doesn't really get a lot out of her, apart from the little snippets that Zamaral's been telling him, and when he actually sees Talyn in person, her manner, her way of walking, her way of talking, when he marries that up to what Zamaral's told him, gets a pretty good bullseye in there in terms of guessing correctly that she's nobility and royalty. And that's something Talyn hasn't considered, is the world in which she's used to walking in her cousin Arthane's court as king of the Twin Thrones, Arya as a prince. She is accustomed to walking in those hallways amongst those people. She doesn't have that natural deference. She doesn't feel overwhelmed. She feels quite comfortable because that's what she's been accustomed to since living in Ryathel. And that's been the case. And that's something Zamaral has picked up on clearly, that she should have potentially thought about before undertaking this mission. They threaten each other, which is a lot of fun, but neither really can carry out the threats. As Talyn rips straight into Kewin's bluff, the Shadowhawk can't walk up to Ravenir and start telling tales about Talyn, because that'll immediately get him thrown in jail, and winged folk are unlikely to listen to anything he says anyway. Talyn, for her part, doesn't necessarily have an interest in having the Shadowhawk locked up, particularly if he's an avenue to get her information that she needs. So she's more than happy to let him run free, particularly now that she has a beat on him and can find him when she needs to. So overall, such a fun scene to write. The first meeting between these two protagonists, when you know kind of how it's all going to unravel from here, is so cool to read again. A real matching of wills and different skills and different abilities really coming together here in a kind of a bit of a chess match of a scene. I hope you enjoyed it too. If you have any questions or comments about it, please drop them below. I'd love to answer and talk about this one a bit more. But as usual, we're going to come soon with chapter 23. Won't be too much longer. I can't wait to see you there. Please consider liking and subscribing. But otherwise, I'll see you soon, and have a great day.